Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. Start of the my Tim Talk series. I'm here with Darrell Amy. Darrell is actually in the UK, so we thought we'd actually meet up and do this face to face rather than doing it over the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in Darrell's hotel in Wokingham. Before we get started, Darrell, tell everybody where they can get hold of you.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, thanks for having me on the show.
You're
We have
welcome.
been talking and drinking coffees for over an hour now, and boy, we have so many great ideas to share. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and you can get a hold of me, of course, on LinkedIn. Darrell, Darrell, Amy. There are not very many of us. And so linkedin.com/in/Darrell Amy, no space. And Twitter, Darrell_Amy, and I'd love to connect with you.
So Darrell, tell us your story. You know, where have you come from? What's got you to this point today?
Well, it's been quite a journey, Tim, and it's been a combination of sales and marketing. Kind of that I hate to use the word marketing; it's so cheesy. But I spent the first half of my career in B2B sales,
Right.
In the office technology space, helping clients with initially office technology, then more on the solutions side of the business. Did that for about 15 years, and then all of that with a marketing degree in my hip pocket. And so following that, started a marketing agency where we were doing sales training and digital marketing for B2B technology companies. And so now I've been doing that for 15 years. So it's been quite a journey working in the world and watching the world today where sales and marketing has now converged. And that's where there's so many exciting things going on right now, and it's a fun time to be in business.
Oh yeah, I think it's certainly the most exciting time that I've seen,
Clearly.
and the way that we see the change. I mean, today what we're going to talk about is about how the salesperson can stand out.
Yeah.
What is it that I can do? Some simple things that I can take away where I can actually stand out.
Yeah.
So what do you how do you see that, Darrell?
Oh my! We're swimming in a sea of sameness right now, and this is it's very interesting. I was training a group of technology salespeople yesterday, and you realize that right now, technology-wise, this group of salespeople has the best technology they've ever had, and I think that's true for all of us, no matter what you're selling. The generation of what you have to sell right now is the best generation, and not only that, the company I was training yesterday, the sales team. They have an outstanding support organization. So they have the best technology. They have the best support. So I asked the
So they must
salespeople.
have the best results then.
Well, they have good results.
Yeah.
I don't want to downplay that, but I asked the salespeople, what challenges are you facing in the market today? And I ask this every time I train salespeople. It doesn't matter, big company, small company, US, UK, Australia. Top 3 on that list is always differentiation.
Right.
And then following that is going to be, well, we struggle to get appointments, and then we struggle with gross profit, right? Because commoditization. And so, how do you differentiate? It's interesting because I think, you have to come to as a sales professional, you have to come to the marketplace with the assumption that everybody else has good products.
Yep.
And everybody else has good service.
Yep.
While that may or may not be true, by and large, the perception of the client, it probably is true, the perception of the prospect. So one of my favorite books right now is Deb Calvert's new book that she wrote with the leadership experts,
Right.
Kouzes and Posner,
Okay.
Stop Selling, Start Leading. And she said something early on in that book. And I've struggled to get through the book because I read like 2 pages at a time. It's so good, so rich. She said, sales people don't just bring value, they are the value.
Right.
And when she said that, I thought that is the most succinct and articulated way to say something that is so true, which is we are, as salespeople, we are the value. And what that means is we've got products, we've got good service, we've got great companies behind us, but what we need to be able to do is bring value to the conversation.
Because what you're saying is that if our product's the same,
Yes,
our content is the same,
right.
and our service is the same, then we're pitching up with a kit bag of stuff and we get it out and put it on the table.
We do.
And they go, yeah, but we just had that from your competitor.
Right.
So what is it? So this is what you're saying is that actually the salesperson is the value, because everything else in the kit bag is the same.
And I think, I've also been rereading Insight Selling recently.
Right.
And I think that's really animated a lot of my thought in this area as well, is when you survey buyers and they say, what do you like about the reps that win your business as opposed to the, first loser, second place. There is no second place in sales, only first loser. What do you like about the reps that win the business? And the buyers say that those reps brought us insight.
Okay.
They brought us ideas.
And what do you mean by that? It's a bit like one of these. It's a term a bit like the term value, which is thrown around. And
it's a little
and nobody knows what, because actually value is a relative term.
Right.
Because value to you and value to me are different things. Mm-hmm. So what is insight?
So yesterday I asked the sales. I'll answer that by telling a story. Yesterday I asked the sales reps. I said, "Do you want to be seen as a hardware sales rep or a trusted advisor?" Because everyone's like, "Trusted advisor. I want to be a trusted advisor." Right? Of course. Okay. Yeah. Well, what do you need to do to be a trusted advisor? Well, number one, you need to be seen as trustworthy. Yeah. Number two, you have to bring advice. So let's talk about number two first. The advice is, how do you bring advice to the situation? Well, you have to become somebody that has ideas to bring to the table. Okay. Not just, and work under the assumption that all of your competitors did their product training, they did their sales training, they know about the product. What we've got to be able to do is bring ideas to the table that are helpful. And I think a sales rep is ultimately a bridge. I mean, it's a bridge. You've got a customer, a prospect that's got business problems, or if you're, B2C, a person that has aspirations and goals. And then you've got a company that's got products, services, solutions, whatever. The sales rep's real job is to understand the prospect and to understand the client. And what I've found is, if you want to truly be a sales professional, you're going to have to go beyond the sales training that your company provides you. I mean, your company is going to provide you product training, hopefully, or you should consume, knowledge about the product. But you're going to have to proactively go out and consume knowledge about your clients and knowledge about business in general.
So in terms of getting insight, what you're saying is that this is not something where marketing are basically going to say, "Here's the insight, Tim."
No.
This is where you actually have to go out and read stuff or consume stuff to find those ideas.
You do. And we all want to be highly compensated as sales professionals, right? I mean, we all got in sales because we want to make some money. And, I mean, this is almost cliche, doctors make a lot of money and they have to read the medical reviews. Attorneys make a lot of money and they have to read the case reviews. Salespeople, we want to make a lot of money. And if we're going to do that and we're truly going to differentiate, we have to be able to bring value, which means we need to educate ourselves consistently.
Because if you look at, I'm a great believer that the sales profession is a bit like a doctor or a lawyer. It's a profession, and that we should be proud of. But if you look at accountants and doctors, they have to go through a process of continual growth. Right. Marketeers have to do it as well, where they have to go through certain training, which they have to do on a weekly or a monthly basis. And at the end of the year, have you got all those hours? Okay, you can now practice again. Yes. But we don't have to do that as a salespeople. So we're in this situation where
we're not forced to. No,
we're quite often in this situation where I meet salespeople and go, "Yeah, well, I got lucky." And sold something 20 years ago. Right. And what I've done is I've done that same thing now for the next 20 years. And that was pre-internet, pre-iPhone, pre-Facebook, But so for us to stay relevant and to add value, we've got to keep reading and understanding what's going on within our client base. And is that what you're saying?
I think so. And I think as a sales professionals, we have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, look, wherever you are in your career, whether you're 2 years in, 20 years in, and wherever you are in your income, you may be doing fantastic. But I would say as a sales professional, if you're making the same amount of income this year that you made the last 3 or 4 years, you really need to take a good look in the mirror at yourself. Because sales, look, here's the reality. In this world, you're either growing or you're shrinking, right? You're either expanding or you're contracting. And even if you're on that, flatline plane with your income right now as sales rep, notwithstanding, some of us have worked for companies that do income levelization by raising quotas and, all of that. I'm talking about if you flatlined, you need to look at yourself and go, wait a second, am I really bringing value? like fresh, relevant value. So, from hanging out with me, I say that, the breakfast of champions is content, right? The breakfast of sales champions is content.
Because you actually say, you actually have a daily routine, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Which is where, when you have your breakfast, it's your time that you spend actually reading.
I do. Now, I like to read personally. I like to read, all kinds of things. But I've realized that if I'm going to bring value to my conversations during any given day, that I need to have some fresh ideas to bring to the table. So for breakfast, I think two things. First of all, and this could be breakfast. This could be commuting to work.
Yeah. I did an interview with a guy called Richard Young, who's a friend of mine, and I asked him the question, when do you start social selling? And people were amazed. He said, well, it's 7:30 every morning. It's like 7:30, like not like when you get in the office and do. He said, no, as soon as I get on the train, I'm there. I'm focused on the day, and I'm reading stuff, and I'm researching stuff, and I spend 45 minutes, which is his commute into work, selling, because that's I'm being paid to do.
Absolutely.
And that's about reading as well.
Well, so I'll do two things. First of all, I'm always reading a book, and I've got at any given time I've got 4 or 5 books going. I've got some fantastic books going, but I try to make sure that those books, at least some of them need to be relevant to me in my sales profession. So you should always be consuming that, but some of those books need to be relevant to your clients. So if you sell into a B2B environment and you're talking to finance directors consistently, guess what? You should be consuming some of that content. And I personally insist on reading all my books on Kindle.
Right.
And there's one reason for that. Well, 2 reasons. I travel a lot. I don't carry around 5 books. But the real reason is I can then take that content and I can highlight it. I can save it for myself, but I can also social share.
And share it out.
And so at breakfast, I'm reading a book. Now, I read a book until I get inspired. So sometimes that takes 2 pages, like if I'm reading Deb Calvert's book, shout out to Deb. If sometimes it takes 20, but I'm reading till I'm inspired and have an idea. And by the way, usually when I read a book, I'll get a blog idea. And so a lot of times I'll find that I'm consuming content for breakfast, and next thing you know, I got my laptop open and I'm blogging.
Because I don't know about you, but what I find is that, and we're kind of veering off into the should salespeople blog.
Yes.
Yes. But what my view is that you read something and you get something in here.
Yes.
Where you may violently agree or you may violently disagree.
Yeah. Either way is great.
And disagreeing is fine. And it's about taking that very, very simply and putting it out down on a page. You don't have to write a lot. It's not a white paper. But you and I, we are the accumulation of all our experiences.
We are, yep.
And as a sales rep, if we're going to add some value and provide some insight, if we're taking all of those experiences that we've had and what we're reading, and we're going in and saying, a bit like what you said just now, have you read Deb Calvert's book? Yes. I haven't. But in the book it says this. Well, I'm now going to go and buy it. And,
of course you are. Yeah.
But you're if you're saying that in front of a client and saying, I was reading this paper or I was reading this
dynamite.
It is just it shows that you're passionate about them, that you're interested in them, and that you're and those are the kind of the offshoots. But the fact that you're showing that you have some insight, you're now probably like that's a 1-0 against the competition.
Well, and that's where you become the value as a sales rep. So if products equal, services equal, all of that in the competitive thing, all of a sudden you've just stood up and above. And I think the other thing that happens when you do that, I'll come back to the second half of my breakfast routine in a second, is most sales is adversarial, right? I mean, it's buyer, seller, tug of war. As soon as you start introducing ideas into a conversation, the conversation, I find, begins to shift. And it moves, and this is where we ultimately want to get. We want to be on the same side of the table.
Yes.
Or another way to say it is we want a seat at the table, at the decision-making table or at the executive table. So as we start to bring fresh, relevant ideas into the conversation, I think we start moving around the table, and then it becomes collaborative. And at that point, sales becomes fun. And because I hate the adversarial part of it, I hate it. It becomes fun, and it becomes much more effective. And not only that, you begin to actually develop a relationship, because if you're just the, I mean, we know buyers are 57% of the way through the buying process on average. That's old data, is more than that. Sales reps in many selling scenarios are a necessary final step.
A necessary evil, yeah.
Yes, a buyer would like, if I didn't have to meet with a sales rep, I mean, let's be honest, I feel that way in my personal life.
Yeah, we use an example a lot where, we're aware of a corporate enterprise accounting software that was sold, where the client phoned up the rep and said, we want to buy your software.
Right.
Obviously not the best negotiator in the world,
right.
but they said, and the sales rep said, well, don't you want a demo? They said, no, we've seen all about it on YouTube.
Right.
We've read your content. We've seen the videos.
Right.
We just want to buy it.
Well, can I come by? No.
And
just send me an order.
And so I mean, this whole thing about
that's not good for the sales rep.
For the sales rep, she's just become an order taker.
Yes.
And this
that's not good.
And this isn't a transactional deal. This is a mid-market enterprise piece of software that if you're buying an accounting package. You're going to be using it for 5 or 10 years. This is a serious decision.
Big dollars,
and if people are doing that, and this was 2 years ago,
right?
And if people are doing that 2 years ago,
yes,
the fact that we are at the moment, we're probably in the way of actually buying.
Well,
as a salesperson,
let's share the opposite of that, though. So I know a salesperson in a major market in the U.S., top 5 market. Developed a consistent, she ate content for breakfast, she shared it, she obviously optimized her LinkedIn profile and did all the best practices and was present as a thought leader on LinkedIn. And so one day she checks her LinkedIn message box and the inbox is the CFO of the largest healthcare facility in her city.
Wow.
In the inbox. Yeah. And the inbox said, we have a mess going on here related to the products and services that you sell. Our contracts are all messed up. I don't know who to call, but it looks like you might be able to help. Could you come meet with me?
You're the solution to my problem.
And this was 7 months ago, and we just found out that 2 or 3 weeks ago she got the contract for the entire hospital. Fantastic. It's the biggest deal her company will do this year. It's a massive takedown. And so it's the opposite of that, right? It was someone saying, I have a problem. I need someone that could be a trustworthy advisor. Hey, she looks trustworthy. She's giving advice all the time. Looks like she could give us some advice. And boom, deal's done. And, I don't know what competition was invited into it, but my guess is not very much.
I would guess little. I mean, we're finding that with inbound that the competition is quite often.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Is live.
It's amazing.
But let's go back to your breakfast.
Breakfast, okay.
You've had your.
Speaking of breakfast, by the way, you guys over here in the UK, the English breakfast, hands down. If you've never been to Great Britain, best breakfast in the world.
It is. It's fantastic.
But I have been eating content along with my my wonderful English breakfast. The other half is books. I mean, we've got to read books, and you can listen to books and all of that. Either way. Read them on Kindle, share. The other piece of content is blogs.
Right.
And all of your...
Okay, but as a salesperson, we don't have time to write blogs, do we?
No, read blogs.
Oh, read blogs.
Yes, read blogs. And news and all of that. So what I do is, and I'm ADD. I'm a sales guy, like all of us. I don't read anything, usually don't read anything all the way through, except for your articles,
I'm a scan. Of course.
Because they're brief and punchy. Yeah. But what I do is I use an app called Feedly. Some people use an app called Flipboard. I'm sure there's more out there. I use Flipboard, yeah. Either way, I just load that up with blogs and news sources that are relevant to me. So I work obviously in the sales and marketing world, so I'm following content to make me better at what I do. And I'm following my competition as well, by the way. And then I serve people in a specific industry. So I'm following that industry's content. So I'm staying on top of it. And then I work with C-level decision makers and business owners. So I'm following leadership content as well that's going to be useful to them. And so it's very interesting because of those three, guess which one starts the most conversations?
I have no idea.
The leadership stuff.
Right, okay.
So it's very interesting. Our company, one of the companies I own, follows a leadership model called the Entrepreneur's Operating System. And And so I share a lot of content about that. Now it's interesting because I read that, it helps my company, but I share that content. And other people, I mean, I just drove a conversation this week from a prospect that said, we love this. We use it in our business. And I said, yes, we love it too. Tagged the author of the book. And the author of the book then chimed in. And then the prospect said, hey, Darrell, the author of the book. Look, he just, like a rock star, right? All of that because I consumed that, Entrepreneur Operating System blog for business. I consume, another great source of content for me is Harvard Business Review.
Yep.
Great content, right? Relevant to your buyers. And you read through the article and you share relevant pieces of content. And we know, obviously your listeners know that buyers are vetting out sellers on LinkedIn and online. And so when they come and see my profile, you're going to see useful content, right? Shared from books I'm reading, articles I'm reading, and then,
And I love that story that you tell of that salesperson, because it's one of the things that we try and get over in our coaching.
Yeah.
Which is that, okay, so you're a salesperson. Everybody knows that you're a salesperson, so you don't need to advertise it, but
right, yeah.
And
Right.
they know that you're going to try and sell them something.
Yes.
But also, that is their entry point into your company.
Right.
And what they're looking for is not someone to manipulate them and stitch them up. They're looking for someone and go, do I think I can trust that person?
Right.
I think I probably can.
Right.
And do I think that they can be the solution to my problem?
Yes.
And at that point, you will see a difference. And what we try and explain to people with social is that it's not necessarily about content and putting it out, though.
Right.
That's what you need to do.
Yes.
It's when you start getting the inbound.
Right.
And because if you're not getting inbound, you're not doing it right.
That's correct.
And you need to be in a position where people go, you are the solution to my problem, and I'm going to contact you.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you have to stop doing whatever you do in terms of your outbound.
Of course not. Of course not.
But in terms of your prospecting,
yes,
getting inbound is also a part of your prospecting best practice.
Yeah, I think so. And when you share valuable content, you put it out there that you are useful to talk to, that someone can look at you and go,
you are that
value. Guy would be worth talking to.
Yes.
And insight selling, the Rain Group's research in that book is fascinating because, basically people are saying, if you want to boil it all down, I don't want to talk to an empty suit, right? I don't want to talk to somebody that doesn't have any value to add. I want to talk to somebody that is going to add value. They're going to bring ideas. They're going to bring insight. They have done this before with other companies, other people, and I get the sense that they're not just going to be in it, to slam a deal and leave, that they're going to, really challenge me. And I think I'll give you the opposite. So I got a phone call not long back from a sales rep in Houston, Texas, another huge market, right? So this sales rep calls me up. He said, Darrell, you won't believe what happened. He said, I have been working for years to get into this target account. And so he finally gets a C-level appointment in a target account, worked for years. He's so excited. The night before, he's picked up his suit at the cleaners. I mean, everything, shoes shined, ready to go on this first in appointment. And he checks his email the night before this appointment. And the email says, hey, I know we have an appointment tomorrow. I'm really busy right now. We have a lot of priorities going on at our company. And I checked out your LinkedIn profile, and it really doesn't seem like you have any value to add. So it's a true story.
Is that true?
It's a true story.
Right.
And he said, so, I wish you all the best. And, gone. Appointment gone.
Yeah.
Now, we know, obviously credible.
Come on, everybody checks out everybody on LinkedIn, don't they?
Credible research says 55% of buyers vetted.
Come on, it's more than that,
Well, that was 2014, right? I don't meet with anybody without, you didn't meet with me without checking me out on LinkedIn.
No, absolutely not.
And
you spent last night reading all my content, so...
I did. I was like, I'm going to be on the podcast today. I need to know this guy.
Yeah.
Actually, I read your content for breakfast.
Yeah.
So, with my English breakfast.
Yeah.
But that was, what a gift for that guy, right?
Yeah.
A cold glass of water in the face. What a gift. And that is the moment, it would be beautiful if we could all have a cold glass of water in the face like that. Instead of just hearing, from... data and statistics are great, but just that slap across the face to go, oh my gosh, I'm getting vetted out of deals. And for every one that tells you, which no one ever does, there's 1,000 that we never say anything.
We're seeing now a lot of people that when they're doing their research, and we all do research.
We do.
That they're looking at things like websites and they're looking at LinkedIn profiles and that, and they're actually using that information to deselect, similar to your story.
Well, of course.
Not select.
Of course.
Whereas 2-3 years ago, it was a lot of it was to actually select.
Right. Yeah.
And we're now seeing it as the opposite of deselecting, because all of us we're far better now.
Right.
You think about when Google started, we used to put in restaurant in Wokingham.
Right.
And now we'll put in Indian restaurant in that specialise in South Indian food.
Yeah, right.
Or something like that. Because
within 0.5 miles of
because we're so much cleverer at using search and the search engines are so much cleverer at coming back. And as buyers, even though we may sell and work in a B2B environment, we take that B2C experience into our B2B working lives, and we expect B2B people to be like B2C.
Well, it's interesting. There's actually the town where I live is headquartered to a large data company, and when I talk to the guys there, they don't talk about B2B and B2C. They talk about B2P,
right?
Because everything is business to person, right? Yeah. So I don't sell to IBM. I sell to a person a team of people, right? In IBM, so I better have that relationship, but I'm going to form relationships with people that I trust, and I'm going to build trust based on shared experience and shared ideas. Quite frankly, you may be the nicest guy in the world, but if you don't know what you're doing and you can't prove that you know what you're doing or that you've helped someone else, I don't want to talk to you. I mean, I'm trying to make a business decision or a personal decision that's going to have a big impact. I want to find somebody that is going to be able to truly prove that they can help me out. And that's on one sense, it's a burden. You can look at this like, another thing I got to do. On another sense, this is a bonanza of opportunity, right? Because, oh my goodness, I can eat content for breakfast, read some books, read some blogs, share that. We're not talking about hours a day. We're talking about a chunk of time, which should be enjoyable and interesting. And at the same time, I can begin attracting people to me that are good prospects and enhancing my appointment rate and close rate. Wow.
Why wouldn't I do that?
Wow.
And we had an organization that come to us and they said, we want you to help us close 8-figure deals.
Yes.
And actually, the bigger the deal, because quite often we find that people say the bigger the deal, the more likely they are to say, my clients aren't on social.
Right.
But actually, this isn't necessarily about your clients being on social.
Right.
It's about going into those meetings and actually saying, in my experience, the top 5 people are currently doing this.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Yes.
And actually taking that insight and having those conversations rather than going in with a bloody cheat sheet and this is a discovery meeting and all of that crap that we get served up.
Yes.
And a friend of mine in Australia, he did some research and what he found was that the customers used to, when the salesperson left, they used to joke and work out which sales methodology that they'd go, that's a spin person, or that's a that's Miller Hyman, that one. He's the Miller Hyman guy, and they wouldn't remember it as Michael. They go, he's the Miller Hyman guy, isn't he? And
well, it's interesting. Is I'll give a shout out to the Selling from the Heart podcast, but we've kind of built this mantra about. We're developing a community of sales reps that are genuine, authentic, willing to do the hard work. And one of the things I learned years ago, someone dropped this phrase on me, and is salespeople have commission breath, right? We walk in and people can smell the self-interest and the desperation. And of course we need close, of course, right? But the reality is if we can move from commission breath to being more contributors, and like going, okay, how can I not just position myself, but genuinely be somebody that could walk into an organization, walk into my clients and prospects' office, and help their business or their personal lives be better. And I think that's where it all begins, right? It's that genuine, authentic heart of service that says, you know what? Yeah, I need to hit quota. Yeah, I want to be the number 1 rep in the company and be a superstar, but
I want to help your organization as well.
Yeah, I'm going to start by saying I truly want to help your organization. And I want to help you make good decisions and avoid making bad decisions. And that's where, and so this is trusted advisor, right? That person becomes trustworthy. And then if they've done their homework and eaten the content for breakfast, that person becomes someone that can give advice. And all of a sudden, you just, you're head and shoulders above everybody else in the deal, and or if anyone even gets invited into the deal. And so I think from that perspective, this is an extremely, in some ways, this is the most hyper competitive time ever.
Yes.
But at the same time, this, you can look at it from the perspective of, it's never been easier to differentiate yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Never been easier. And the reality is most salespeople and most organizations aren't doing this. So the ones that do, unbelievable competitive advantage right now.
Darrell, this has been fantastic.
It's a lot of fun.
Really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your time in the UK, because I know that you're flying off. And thanks very much.
Thank you. It's a great
You're welcome.
time.
Welcome.